This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and this wide receiver drama, specifically centered around Jahan Dotson, has gotten out of control at this point. Dan Quinn directly called them out before the Dolphins joint practice today. He said, we're, quote, still looking for a wide receiver 2 right now. Should we have traded Jahan Dotson for Brandon Aiyuk? Should we still try them to trade him for Brandon Aiyuk? Is Rivera the worst draft evaluator of all time in the burgundy and gold history? And just to let you know, this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. We're going to break down everything. We're going to break down what Dan Quinn said, and I'm going to show you the clip of that. We're going to break down what Jahan Dotson had to say after practice today against the Dolphins in that joint practice. I'm going to show you that clip as well, and we're going to break down every single part of this, even the fact that he was the receiver that played the most in the preseason game against the Jets and why that matters. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Of course, I will keep y'all updated on everything going on, and you know, later on in the day, once I get some time, I will do a full breakdown of what went down today between the Dolphins, my fault, and the Commanders in that joint practice that just finished a few minutes ago. So be on the lookout for that later on this evening. I will break that down. Apparently Jaden Daniels and Mike Sainristil are both the real deals. Don't pay attention to the 2 interceptions that Jaden Daniels threw. I'm going to explain why in that video later. Stay tuned for that. But of course, make sure you stay tuned for all of the content, daily content, your one-stop shop for everything Commanders. And without wasting more of y'all time, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so the catalyst for me even making this video was before the joint practice versus the Dolphins, and everybody's in Miami right now. Commanders head coach Dan Quinn said that the wide receiver 2 role in the offense is still wide open. Not, oh, we have some leaders. Jahan Dotson maybe has a slight edge, but we're still looking for somebody to come, usurp him at the position or something like. No, just straight up, it is wide open. And he even acknowledged the fact that Olamide Zaccheaus, I got that name the first time, getting good with it. Luke McCaffrey, De'Ami Brown, and Jahan Dotson are all in the mix. Here's that clip right here.
I would say we are right in the middle of it. And so you'll see a lot of guys in today. You'll see 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a lot of guys that are really battling. I've been really impressed with Olamide. And I thought he's had a really strong camp. Looking forward to getting Luke some extra work into here. Jahan, De'Ami, so that's where we're at, and then the special teams is going to have a factor in that as well.
And I don't know how y'all heard it or how y'all felt about it when y'all just saw that clip, but when I saw it, I felt like this was definitely a message sent directly towards Jahan Dotson. I think this is like the nicest way possible that Dan Quinn can call him out, in my opinion. I feel like this is just literally a call to Jahan Dotson. You need to step it up. You're not playing as well as we hoped and expected. I feel like Dan Quinn is literally picturing Jahan Dotson in his mind when he's saying those things in that clip. And I'm assuming that he hopes that it lights a fire under Jahan Dotson to basically step his game up. I feel like completely, wholeheartedly, that was not a shot at Jahan Dotson, but a call to arms. Hey, man, time to step it up. We are August 15th. We have a regular season week 1 game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in less than a month. We need you better than where you are right now. Not necessarily saying that he's terrible, but we need you better than where you are today. Again, Jahan Dotson even speaks on that. We're going to get to that towards the end of the video, kind of trying to go in chronological order somewhat with how we're structuring this video. But either way, it's crazy because, to me especially, because not only have I heard of Jahan Dotson making plays consistently in camp practices since training camp started a few weeks ago, but I've also even seen the plays, like this clip right here from just a couple of days ago, very recently. And there's been several clips like this throughout training camp alone, not even considering voluntary OTAs, mandatory mini camps or anything like that, just training camp from the past few weeks. I've seen several clips like these uploaded by the Washington Commanders themselves and even media members and fans that were going to the practices when we were allowed to do so. So maybe he hasn't been as good or as consistent as they hoped or expected, but it's not like he's just been complete trash. But has he been as good as us fans, or I guess the coaching staff wants him to be? Apparently not so far. And remember, just a few days ago, B. Mitch called out a receiver after a practice. Well, it was like during the practice. I guess it was like, I don't even think the practice was over yet, but he called out a receiver. He didn't name the receiver. And of course, that started a bunch of speculation about maybe he's talking about De'Ami Brown, maybe he's talking about Jahan Dotson. And I believe from what I was seeing on Twitter that most people felt like it was probably Jahan Dotson. But he said that if you hadn't checked out the video, I did like a full breakdown explaining what happened there. But just to, long story short, he called out a receiver, and the way that he's talking about it, like the diction that he's using, sounds like it's like a big time receiver, like it's one of the guys higher on the depth chart. This is not some back of the end depth chart, because he said that apparently the receivers seemed to be pouting and sulking and seemed to not be a fan of the fact that the Washington Commanders went out and signed a Martavis Bryant, and basically they feel threatened by that signing or something like that. And instead of feeling threatened by the signing, which you shouldn't in the first place, but even if you do, instead of having the reaction of, all right, it's time to conduct myself even better, it's time to perform even better, B. Mitch is saying that he was seeing ridiculous body language that showed that this receiver may have even given up to an extent, or is just pouting, doesn't like the situation. Instead of doing something about it, he's just sulking, and I absolutely hate that. That's one way to get on at least my bad list of I can't rock with you. When you're challenged and you bow down, you sulk rather than stepping up, man. It's just something in me, man. I can't rock with that, man. So I'm really hoping that wasn't Jahan Dotson. I'm really hoping that B. Mitch may be exaggerating, even though it does not sound like it at all, as we can see with everything that's transpired since he called that receiver out a few days ago. I'm hoping that he's exaggerating. I really hope that it's not one of our guys that is acting like that, because that's a big no-no for me. Dan Quinn and those guys are probably more forgiving than I would be if I saw a receiver acting like that. I would probably be on the same time B. Mitch is, but of course I'm glass half full. I'm Mr. Optimistic, so I'm just hoping it wasn't as bad as B. Mitch made it seem like it was. But I don't know, man. I'm kind of leaning towards believing B. Mitch again, especially with everything that's transpired since he called that receiver out a few days ago. But even John Com tweeted about it, because Nikki Javala tweeted how Dan Quinn said that they are in the middle of a search for wide receiver 2, and that there are a lot of players in the mix. John Com quote tweeted that at 10:20 a.m. today and said Dotson has not emerged and Zacchaeus has been very consistent all summer. So John Com right there, the ESPN representative for all of the beat reporters and media members that the Commanders have to offer, directly just said straight up, Olamide Zacchaeus is probably above Jahan Dotson on this depth chart right now. I mean, and that is very striking. This is not just a random fan going to the practices just trying to stir up trouble. This is John Com that, when in doubt, if you could bet that any of the media members that covered the Washington Commanders, that he's not going to try to give a biased opinion. He doesn't have a narrative or an agenda. He's just telling it exactly how it is, and that is very telling right there. The fact that it's coming from John Com makes it even more telling, because again, his whole thing is, I prefer to be right than to be first or early. He's not trying to create headlines and stir up drama for clicks and views. I trust John Com when it comes to those type of things. So for him to say that, that's very, very alarming for Jahan Dotson. And shouts out to @CommandersPost, because he brought up a great point on Twitter, and I completely agree. He tweeted at 11:12 a.m. Dotson was drafted to be, and is supposed to be, or is supposed to have, the talent of a wide receiver 2. However, if he's consistently being outplayed by other guys in camp, you can't play him because of what he's supposed to be. You're supposed to play him based on what he actually is. I completely agree there. I feel like that tweet was worded so well, I had to read it bar for bar, word for word. So shouts out to @CommandersPost for that. I completely agree. I mean, first of all, it would only be slightly different if Jahan Dotson was a first-round pick of Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. Then you could kind of make the argument of, well, you know what, try to, baby him a little bit, coddle him a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he's not living up to the standard that y'all hoped, but, you just spent a first-round pick on him. It's like, give him a little bit of slack. But this is a previous regime's first-round pick. And not only that, but a first round pick from a couple of years ago. We're not even talking about Emmanuel Forbes, who was just a first round pick last year. We're talking about a first round pick from 2 years ago, 2 drafts ago, the 2022 draft, when we just had the 2024 draft led by Jaden Daniels. So there's just really no reason at all for this coaching staff, this new regime, to baby and coddle this guy along and to give him way more opportunities than other receivers, even though they have been doing so. We're going to talk about that with how they treated him in that Jets preseason game soon. We'll get there. But now, as this takes me to the point of the video, and we have several sections of this video. Now we're on to the section of, should we have used Jahan Dotson in a trade for Brandon Aiyuk? Because the 49ers were apparently asking for a high draft pick along with a potentially good player, and I believe the rumors were they preferred a receiver in transition. So maybe like a receiver that's good. Of course, not as good as Brandon Aiyuk, but that's where the high draft pick comes in to even the value. Brandon Aiyuk with a high draft pick, second round, first round, with a receiver that's not as good as Brandon Aiyuk, but still not some bum at the end of the roster that's more than likely not going to make your team, or even like a wide receiver 4, 5, or 6. They're talking about a guy that can come in and contribute immediately because they're trying to win a Super Bowl. Why would the 49ers want to trade Brandon Aiyuk in this situation right now? First round draft picks are nice and all, but you're trying to win. Your Super Bowl window is only but so big. It can just go crumbling away at any moment. That's why they're trying to do everything that they can to bring him back and sign him long term, because right now they're in win now mode. Draft picks hold way less value for a team like the 49ers than they do for us. So really, that's just a bad trade mutually for both of us. They don't care about draft picks. They want good players. And I know we want good players, but we can still to get a lot of value out of draft picks, especially with the way that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have been drafting, not the way that Ron Rivera and those guys have been drafted. Now, maybe if Ron Rivera and Marty Hurney and Martin Mayhew still had something to do with the talent evaluation of the scene, which we're going to get, that's another section of this video. We're going to go through the history of Ron Rivera draft picks and how bad they've been. But maybe if it was still that regime drafting, then maybe I'd be like, yeah, first round pick, whatever. You're probably going to misuse it anyway and end up spending it on a guy that isn't worthy of that first round pick. Again, we're going to dive into that history and point out the exact guys that I'm talking about, even outside of the first round. So, but that would make sense. But again, between the 49ers and Commanders, that's just a bad trade mutually, ultimately. It would be nice to have Brandon Aiyuk, but we're not in win now mode. The 49ers are. I feel like a better trade would be if we just for some reason had Brandon Aiyuk and we could trade him to the 49ers for a good receiver and a really high draft pick. I feel like that would so us doing it vice versa with the situation that we're in right now, it actually doesn't make much sense for either team, especially the 49ers more than anybody else. Yeah, it would be nice to improve our receiver core, especially with us drafting Jaden Daniels, but on the 49ers side of things, why are you drafting a great player for a mystery box? Remember Family Guy when I forgot what the exact offer was, but it was like you can have $1 million or you can take this mystery box, and then they were like, ooh, that mystery box may have $1 million in it. No, bro, Brandon Aiyuk is guaranteed. We know what he is, commodity. You keep that guy at all costs. So there's just no reason for them to really trade for him. Either way, my point is, when people were saying that, yeah, maybe we should throw Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson in that trade along with a high draft pick, I can admit, I was like, nah, I think I'm good. I love Terry, and I believe in Jahan's talent. Even though I wasn't the big Jahan Dotson fan going into that draft when we took him. And now it's looking even crazier because fast forward a few weeks, now I'm not even sure if the 49ers would even accept that trade at this point. At first, from the Commanders' point of view, I was like, I don't know about that. Now, from the 49ers' point of view, what's going on with this current Jahan Dotson situation, they're probably looking at it like, I don't know about the Jahan Dotson guy. I don't know if we're willing to accept that. So it's crazy how the tables have turned, man. It would be crazy if we later found out, like months from now, years from now, that they were willing to accept the trade a while ago, and then we declined it, and then now they're not, just after this whole Jahan Dotson, he's not looking as good as we expect the situation. That would be crazy if we found out later down the line. I doubt we would, but really interesting. But I just want to let y'all know that whole 49ers trade for Brandon Aiyuk situation, even with as bad as Jahan Dotson looks right now, that dream has pretty much long passed, in my opinion, if you wanted the Commanders to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. The most likely way for us to end up getting Brandon Aiyuk, for him to end up on the Commanders in any way possible, would honestly be for Brandon Aiyuk to go ahead and play this last year out with the 49ers without signing an extension, and then the Commanders signing them in free agency. And that is still very unlikely at this point. But that's really honestly our best shot at him at this point, because right now it seems like he's either going to go to the Steelers in a trade or he's just going to end up signing an extension with the 49ers. Apparently they're having good trade talks. This is the first time they've been negotiating. I saw some random report that there's only like one last hurdle to get over for him to go ahead and sign his extension. He's even showing up to practices now and participating in practices and with pads on and everything, participating in red zone drills only or something like that I saw. Like, this whole situation has been chaotic and honestly like really stupid, but I've been trying my best to keep up with it. But either way, long story short, at the end of the day, it sounds like no matter what happens, the Commanders are not trading for him. And so at the very least, in my opinion, stop worrying about Brandon Aiyuk's existence at all until March of next year at the very soonest. At this point, just go ahead and give up on that. He's not our solution to replacing Jahan Dotson. Let's just go ahead and get that out of our systems. But with how crazy this Jahan Dotson situation has gotten, I feel like this is a great time to evaluate the Ron Rivera era and him as a draft evaluator. But before we do that, let my boy Michael Vick talk to you real quick, and then I'm gonna talk to you right after.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
And you heard the man. Are you looking for a new book this football season? It should be BetUS for sure. Stop playing with me, man. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry. I know y'all want y'all money fast. I know I do, and I know y'all are like me. Also, when you sign up through me, you can get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000, or even 200% crypto deposit bonus with your first deposit. So make sure you check out my BetUS link in the description below, and it's the pinned comment as well at the top when you go to the comment section. I'm telling you, Street Score is going to hook you up every time when I got it. If I got it, y'all got it every time. And it's also a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process as well, so you don't even have to worry about that part. I know some other places you may have to worry about that. Not here. They also have 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year. Always there for you no matter what, because even all of us take days off, they don't. I mean, they're always there for you, and they have live wagering on all major games, all of them, name it, whichever one. And to me, they have the best betting variety in the business as well. So even if you somehow miss on your bets, you can also even get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. That's forgiveness. We all love that. And did you know that BetUS can even give you your very own account manager? Now, who else in the game is doing that, dog? Come on now, tell me. So again, like I always say, y'all are my people. They're my people. I feel like y'all should just rock with each other just off of that, just alone. So off top, go on and hit that website for sure. Again, link in the description and the pinned comment in this video. Rock with us, man. Now let's talk about this Ron Rivera draft history. Let's just start with first round picks alone and how much of a debacle that's been for the past few years. Let's just start there. So going back to 2020, Chase Young, the first year that Ron Rivera's here, look at where he's at right now. Then you go to 2021, Jamin Davis. I mean, that's a struggle right now. 2022, Jahan Dotson, the situation that we're dealing with right now. And then 2023, Emmanuel Forbes. Not the best look. Shouts out to Grant Paulson because he breaks it down perfectly with a tweet that he put out at 9:58 a.m. today. He said, checking in on the 4 first-round picks of the Rivera era in the Marty Party. Chase Young on 3rd team in 10 months. Crazy. Jamin Davis, new position, trying to make the Commanders, and I would add, I mean, not very likely to make the final 53-man roster. Definitely not a roster lock. I'm rooting for him. I think he has some potential there that I feel like we should throw him kind of to the back end of the roster, maybe as one of the like edge rushers, or at worst one of your off-ball linebackers. He could be behind Jordan McGee, Frankie Louvu, and Bobby Wagner. He wasn't that bad at linebacker. He just shouldn't be your starting Mike. But it is what it is. And then moving on, he said Jahan Dotson, paraphrasing, but Dan Quinn suggested today that he may not start. And then you have Emmanuel Forbes trying to bounce back from the brutal rookie season and battling for a starting job right now. Those are your 4 previous first-round picks all through Rivera's I guess, guidance. Basically, he signed off on everything. He wanted total control, so he can get all of the blame, because when in doubt, even if it wasn't necessarily his idea, he had the role of signing off on everything, like a Bill Belichick ran organization where you're the head coach, you're the GM, you're the everything. And so now I want to just real quick dive into who the Washington Commanders could have gotten in those respective drafts instead of the guys that we drafted. And I don't want to harp on this too long because I'm Mr. Positive and I just want to prove a point here, but I'm not going to stay on this way too long. But if you go to the 2020 draft, I mean, Lord have mercy. After Chase, because Chase Young was drafted only after Joe Burrow. After that, you have Andrew Thomas, my Georgia Bulldog. He's a Pro Bowl left tackle for them. Tua at quarterback. We needed quarterback. Justin Herbert at quarterback. Derek Brown at defensive tackle. Maybe not our biggest need, but still would have been nice. Better than what we did with Chase Young. Tristan Wirfs, elite tackle. We needed tackle at the time. CeeDee Lamb, great receiver. Definitely could have used him. Justin Jefferson, Patrick Queen at linebacker, Godley, DeAndre Swift, another Georgia Bulldog at running back. Could have used him because eventually we ended up drafting Brian Robinson for a reason. You have Jonathan Taylor, dominant running back there as well. Antoine Winfield, all pro safety. We've been looking for safety for a while now. Even when Cameron Curl was here, we were still like, we need a free safety. And Derek Forrest showed, signs of talent, but, it's not necessarily there yet. Jalen Johnson. There's a reason we took corner in the first round with Emmanuel Forbes in the 2023 draft. So you could argue we needed cornerback then. Same thing with Trevon Diggs. Then you see Jalen Hurts as well. We can go on and on and on again. I don't want to spend too much time here, but there's just a lot of players after that we easily could have taken and would have given us way more value, way more bang for our buck. We could have traded back, got more draft picks, and still ended up with a better player, at least given more than what Chase Young gave us. Then going to the 2021 draft. After we took Jamin Davis, there was Najee Harris, and even though he hasn't necessarily worked out that great overall, I believe he did make a Pro Bowl. Then you have Landon Dickerson, the center, and we've had center problems here for the last few years. Thank goodness we went and got Tyler Biadasz this offseason. But most notably, our entire fan base, it seemed like, wanted Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. We all knew it. Coming out of Notre Dame, that's the linebacker we need. For some reason, the Commanders, Rivera, decided that they would take a chance on Jamin Davis. And I've been rooting for Jamin Davis, especially since he didn't go to Georgia. He went to Kentucky, but he's from the state of Georgia. He's from the metro Atlanta area. So I've been rooting for him. You know what I'm saying? I've been trying. And it's crazy, too, because Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah also went a pick after Samuel Cosmi. Now, the Samuel Cosmi pick was genius. Second round pick. I believe he has all pro talent. I think he can definitely make a Pro Bowl this year. So that was the right pick. But Jamin Davis in the first round was crazy. Maybe you take Samuel Cosmi in the first round and then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah the pick before he actually went. We literally selected 51st. Cleveland Browns went 52nd and took him. That alone is just, I don't even need to continue. But even beyond that, Creed Humphrey, one of the best centers in the NFL. We've been looking for centers for a long time. There were just so many other options we could have done there. Again, could have just traded back and still got better players than what Jamin Davis, at least players that would contribute more than what Jamin Davis has done for us so far. Even though I am in the corner of Jamin Davis has not been as bad as people say, I still could have done way better. Then Jahan Dotson, don't even get me started on that. And I'm rooting for the guy. But man, my boy Quay Walker from Georgia, even though he hasn't made a Pro Bowl team yet. Tyler Smith for the Dallas Cowboys at tackle. Tyler Linderbaum at center for the Ravens. We needed that. How about defensive end to replace Chase Young and Montez Sweat that would eventually leave? Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, who used to play at Georgia. I got to take my credit there. It's been Devin Lloyd was available. Of course, there was a bunch of good Georgia Bulldogs from my championship teams that I really wanted. But even just receiver-wise, how about George Pickens, man? My Georgia dog, George Pickens, man. I'm not trying to be extra biased towards my Georgia Bulldogs, but I just can't help but notice their names in the list while I'm scrolling through. And then the draft that we took Emmanuel Forbes in. We took him 16th overall, and y'all already know the famous story. Christian Gonzalez slid way further in that draft than we expected. Going into the draft, I did not expect him to make it to 16. I was willing to trade up a few spots to get Christian Gonzalez. When he was there at 16, I thought the pick was obvious. Just like when we took Jamin Davis, I was like, wait, I thought it was Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That made too much sense. I'm very surprised. Same thing with Emmanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez. Again, I'm rooting for Emmanuel Forbes. He's here. I'm going to ride with him. But I definitely wanted Christian Gonzalez back then. And even just beyond that, I mean, Deonte Banks even looks like a pretty good corner for the Giants. Sam Laporta, we've been looking for tight end for so long. And Sam Laporta was sitting there in the second round after we took Emmanuel Forbes in the first round. There was so many receivers, man. So many different players at different positions of need. I mean, because we've had so many needs. It's not even just like, okay, you took Emmanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez. That's already really bad. But it's not even just you took one corner over another corner. You took Emmanuel Forbes over positions that we also needed elsewhere. So it's just absolutely insane, man. And then what's even sadder is how much better Adam Peters' first draft already looks compared to Rivera's past 4 drafts, and we haven't even played a single game with this rookie class yet. Just from the joint practice against the Dolphins earlier today that I'm gonna do a full breakdown on, Mike Sanverstill is apparently already a better draft pick than anyone chosen in the Rivera era, said by my boys at Ref the District, and he may not be lying. Already hasn't even played a single regular season game. He's already looking like it. Mitchell Tisler pointed out the fact that in the Dolphins joint practice today, Sanverstill might already be the best corner on this team. He plays so smart. Back-to-back plays for him. The Dolphins ran a reverse. He stayed home and got a tackle for loss. And then Tyreek ran a fake reverse and then stayed home and forced Tua to check down. And then he also had a pass breakup on Tyreek Hill in the end zone. I mean, this guy, Mike Sanverstill, showed out today. That's going to be one of the main things I talk about when I do my practice breakdown, when I fully break down and everything. And so apparently, he's clamping up Tyreek Hill in practice. I wouldn't say he clamped him up all practice, but he had a really good practice against one of the scariest receivers in the NFL. And then he's also making very smart, veteran-like, nuanced plays where he's showing discipline in the run game and tenacity to go step up and make a run stop for a tackle for loss. He may already literally be our best cornerback, and it's only mid-August of his rookie season. And I don't know if that means that he's that elite or our other corners are just that bad. Maybe it's a little bit mix of both, but I think I'm willing to say at least it's 70% Mike Sanverstill is just that guy. And all of the hype that he was getting coming out of the draft seemed worth it. Nick Saban saying best pound-for-pound player in the draft. I forgot Chris, the quarterback guy that does all the quarterback rankings, he said he wouldn't be surprised within 2 years Mike Sanverstill is the best slot corner in the entire NFL. Joe Klatt called him the best defensive player on the best defense in all of college football. I mean, it was just so much praise after we drafted him. Everybody loved the draft pick, and it seems like he's living up to the hype and even more. But my point is, he's a second round pick of 2024. It is August 15, 2024. He just got drafted a couple of months ago, and he already looks better than a lot of the draft picks, if not all of the draft picks that Ron Rivera made. I mean, the only argument that you may be able to make, Quan Martin, maybe that was one that Ron Rivera got in that second round. I mean, if you're looking at the 2023 class alone, Emmanuel Forbes fighting for a starting spot. Not exactly sure if he will start. Quan Martin will start at free safety for you. That's a great pickup in the second round. After that, Ricky Strongberg fighting to make the 53-man roster. Braden Daniels looked good against the Jets backups, fighting to make a roster spot. KJ Henry, I think he'll make the roster, but he's behind the 2024 7th round pick. And I think KJ Henry was a 5th round pick in 2023, so that's not that great. Chris Rodriguez, fighting for a roster spot. Right now, I would say he's 4th or 5th behind definitely Jeremy McNichols, but maybe even behind undrafted free agent Michael Wiley. And then you have Andre Jones, who's out here getting into halfway fights with Dolphins players in joint practice today. And I'm not entirely sure if he makes the roster as well. I mean, we can go pick for pick all the way down the road. Fidarian Mathis in the second round is still criminal, man. Now, Chris Paul, as late as we got him, I think early in the 7th round in 2022, that was pretty solid. And then again, Samuel Cosme in the 2nd round. You could argue Benjamin St. Juste and De'Ami Brown in the 3rd round. Derek Forrest in I believe it was the 5th. Maybe there's something there. But you also can't forget they drafted the worst long snapper in NFL history with a draft pick. Didn't pick him up as an undrafted free agent, and they traded up for him. So, I mean, there were just so many mistakes made across the board. Sadiq Charles was estimated, it was predicted to be like a starting guard for the Tennessee Tennessee Titans. He just retired out of nowhere. I mean, I forgot Antonio Gandy Golden and Keith Ishmael even existed, and they were just drafted 4 years ago in 2020. You know, a lot of other teams still have a lot of their 2020 draft picks, and they're probably still starters on their teams, whereas for us, 2020 draft picks are distant memories. So that just proves my point. Ron Rivera was arguably one of the worst draft evaluators of all time. But what's even crazier, shouts out to @ZK_FBB for digging up this clip right here. But remember last year when Rivera had Jahan Dotson practicing as the holder for field goal kicks last year? I mean, maybe even Ron Rivera saw something last year like, dang, I messed up with that first round draft pick from the previous year. Because remember, they took him in 2022. This was 2023 where he was practicing as a holder, even though I believe wasn't it like a situation where Tressway was hurt or something like that? But either way, I'm joking around, but it's just crazy that like Jahan Dotson was out there practicing as a holder, man. But at the end of the day, it is still crazy. And shouts out to @ZKFBB, because again, he tweeted this clip, but he also tweeted Chris Russell when Chris Russell said they're doing everything that they can to figure out what to do with Jahan Dotson right now. I think everything is on the table. Everything. That's very cryptic, but it does not sound good for Jahan Dotson's future right now. Boy, he better put a pep in his step, man. And also, shouts out to Mason Kinahan for the all 22 footage you're seeing right now on that TV in front of me. And going back to the Chris Russell tweet about everything being on the table, that's not a good sign at all. I don't know if it's 100% true, but it seems like they're basically saying, man, you were a first round pick just a couple of years ago, but you haven't looked like it to us yet. As in like the new regime, Dan Quinn and Adam Peters basically speaking. You can throw in Cliff Kingsbury as well. And so now we're basically just trying to find any way possible to get you to look good consistently, because as a first round pick receiver, I mean, it's just hard to give up on that. We just feel like it would be a waste of value. You were taken in the first round. Let's see if we can exhaust every single possible option out there before we just give up on you. Again, I don't know if this is actually the case right now, if this is the actual mental thinking behind all of this, but it sure does sound like it. Remember, Jahan Dotson played the most snaps of any wide receiver on our roster in that Jets preseason game. And I questioned that immediately when I heard about that stat. And so he played 19 snaps in the slot and 13 snaps outside. So that goes back to the point of they're just trying anything. Throw him outside, throw him inside, X receiver, Y receiver, Z receiver, throw him out there with the starters, throw him out there with the backups. Let's just see if anything clicks, man. Where is he consistently good at? And then on top of that, and again, that's just not a good sign that a supposed starter that's supposed to be your wide receiver too, at least assumed to be, is out there playing that much in a preseason game. All of the other starters have sat down. Jaden Daniels only played one series, but Jahan Dotson's still out there. So that was already a big red flag. And so then even after that, they went and signed Martavis Bryant. And then even after that, the B. Mitch call out happened. And then after that, this morning, Dan Quinn said that he's still looking for a wide receiver too, while Jahan Dotson is like, I thought I was. And again, that's all after Jahan Dotson questionably played more snaps than any other receiver on roster in that Jets preseason game from a few days ago. It really does just sound like they were trying to give him as many plays as possible to show some signs of life, basically. And based on everything that happened after the Jets preseason game, again, Martavis Bryant signed, B. Mitch call out, and what Dan Quinn said this morning, everything that I just listed, it doesn't sound like they liked what they saw in that Jets preseason game. They gave him every opportunity possible, and then all of that happened after that. And then after all of that I just told you, after the Dolphins joint practice, even he admitted that he feels like he's been struggling. He said that he was dealing with a media scrum. Shouts out to Seawall Sports for tweeting, Jahan Dotson in a media scrum right now. Everybody trying to get to him to talk to him because they're aware of the situation that's going on right now. And he basically admitted that he's not even at where he wants to be right now. And he's trying to get his confidence back. And so even he knows it. So now we can lay the rumors to rest pretty much. Like all of this drama about it possibly, including the B. Mitch call out, all of that other stuff that's going on. It does sound like it's about Jahan Dotson. The fact that the media members even knew to go up to him after practice. Apparently, this is all around Jahan Dotson. If you want to see him speak, here it is right now. If you don't care to see it, just skip ahead 30 seconds.
And what do you hope to show more of going forward?
Yeah, I'm trying to show what I can do every single day. and just be better than I was yesterday. I'm trying to grow every single day that I come out here. Trying to find something to get better at every single day. Yeah, that's my overall main focus. Just to be better than I was yesterday. Keep building on my game because I'm not where I want to be, and I'm going to keep building every single day to make sure I'm where I want to be.
And shouts out to my boy Rio Robinson. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, subscribe to him on YouTube, all of that, man. That's my guy over there. But he tweeted, even he gets it and fans still don't want to hear it, but respect. And then Seawall Sports replied and said, I'm proud of him for saying it publicly. I really am. And then Rio Robinson said that's real accountability. And I completely agree with both of those tweets right there. I love the fact that he admitted it. He's not trying to hide it. He's not trying to avoid the problem. He's running at it head first. And I mean, to be that transparent with the media, with the public, I respect him for that. And I'm already rooting for him, but that made me root for him even more. But hey, man, say, man, of course I'm still rooting for him. Even before that clip came out, just like a few minutes ago, like an hour ago, even before then, I'm still rooting for him. Because for sure, no question, got to. Even though as the biggest Georgia Dog fan, you know, I obviously wanted George Pickens, even at the exact same pick over Jahan Dotson, let alone the fact that George Pickens went in the second round. So you probably could have took Kyle Hamilton in the first round and still got George Pickens in the second round. That was my dream case scenario. It's crazy that that didn't end up happening. But that doesn't mean that I'm just not rooting for Jahan to prove I'm right or anything like that. Like, I'd far more rather be wrong and Jahan Dotson ends up being a Pro Bowl receiver that balls out and has a big impact on why we're winning Super Bowls. And I prefer that way more than being right. So I'm for sure rooting for Jahan to go crazy. I questioned the draft pick, especially when we did it. Same thing with Emmanuel Forbes. But since both of them are here, I'm rooting for them to ball out. I'm riding with them. It just is what it is. It's that simple to me, man. I'm very loyal, and I'm not blind, so I see they're not doing well. I'm gonna call them out for not doing well, but at least I'm rooting for their success. I feel like that's like the good middle that all fans should be on, but I'm not gonna tell fans how to fan. But I just, at the very least, can we not waste first round picks? At the very least, even if you don't care about Emmanuel Forbes individually or Jahan Dotson individually, can we at least just stop just throwing away great value? I know maybe these guys should not have been drafted in the first round, but we use first round picks on them. You can't get those first round picks back, but these guys are still here. I want to see them be great for at least that, man. They are my dogs at this point. I'm riding with them. We're going to get through this together somehow. At least I hope, man. And shouts out to Josh Taylor, because I'm with him on this tweet. He said, quote, I think the biggest thing that they're seeing with Jahan Dotson is if he plays better on the outside or the slot. Usually the wide receiver 2 is the opposite outside receiver, usually basically the Z. So if he's better in the slot, then Diami can play outside as the Z. This doesn't mean that Jahan isn't the second best wide receiver on the team. It's about where the wide receiver fits best, in all caps, for the best. So that's one way to look at the situation, kind of like glass half full. May not necessarily be true yet, because it doesn't sound like Jahan Dotson is looking good, but don't assume that just simply because Jahan Dotson is the Y that he's automatically wide receiver 3 at best. All of the other things we've talked about today, yeah, believe that. But, and as of today, it sure doesn't sound like he's our second best receiver. But don't just assume that when he's out there as slot receiver, that it means he's not as good as whoever is at the Z receiver, because that seems to be like a typical, like, automatic go-to route that people have mentally with the receiver positions. The X receiver is the best one, the Z receiver is the second, and then the slot, the Y, is just automatically the worst between the three. That's not always the case. As of right now, Jahan Dotson, it can be the case, but that's not just automatically the case, and that doesn't mean that that's permanently going to be the case. Jahan Dotson has time to work his way up and to show that he can be a wide receiver too. Is he one today? Doesn't sound like it, but does that mean that he can never be one for the remainder of his career? Not true at all. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I really appreciate y'all. Of course, again, I've been super busy, but I really want y'all to get in the comment section and let me know, especially with this video, how y'all feel about this entire Jahan Dotson situation. Should we have went ahead and traded him for Brandon Aiyuk if the 49ers were willing to do it, along with like a second or a first round draft pick? Do you feel feel like Jahan Dotson, like the team has given up on him? Do you feel like the team should give up on him? How do you feel about the Rivera error in draft evaluation? Are you with me to say that, hey man, we may be able to deduce that Ron Rivera may be the worst draft evaluator in the Burgundy and Gold history? Let me know how you feel about everything we discussed in this video. Are you still optimistic like me and hoping that Jahan Dotson can eventually turn out to be a good receiver for us? Or are you just like give up on him, get rid of him, it's time to move on? Let me know how you feel about all of that in the comment section. Of course, I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. Do not leave this video without stiff arming that like button. Do not leave this video without leaving a like. And of course, remember that this video was sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And please, if you don't do nothing else, make sure y'all gamble responsibly, man. Please do that one. But of course, also do not leave this video without leaving a like. And again, I will be coming out with my breakdown for what happened in joint practice against the Dolphins. You already know my position group by position group breakdown, where we talk about quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, offensive linemen. I give you injury updates all the way through special teams. And apparently our kicker finally had a good day today. So we're going to talk about all of that and more later on. Catch y'all then. I'm out.